It's been tough. My husband has anxiety, and that has been it's been tough for him and me watching that anxiety kind of come out. And yeah, having to kind of make sure that everybody's okay. We're a family of 3. And so, Monday was tough to find out that it still wasn't working again. And, we were just kind of down on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we got to pick ourselves back up, and it's tough. Anxiety is something that we struggle with. It's tough being a caregiver, and you just love them so much. Everybody has different struggles, is what we talk about. So we need to figure out ways in which we can cope with it and talk about it together, and so that we're all leaning on each other. Some of the things that we talk about. Everybody's been trained on the rescue medicine, and whenever we would leave the house with the grandparents in charge, we always remind them, like how to use it, since they're not around very often. But it's hard to leave my son with someone else, just because that's always in the back of your mind. But on the other hand, you have to let go as well, because, they need to develop on their own and grow individually as a person. So it's a balance. I decided to go with Chase and be on this diet with him together to support him. My husband couldn't quite give up the breads. So he ate our dinners, but he would have his own lunch. It was typical lunch with a sandwich bread and things like that. But I noticed an increase in energy for sure. And I think it really helped Chase see that I was with him, and that Dad was with him to some extent. We would tease Dad, that wasn't quite with us on the diet, but it helped him to see that we were there too. And so he didn't feel like he was alone. And we found that the great thing is that you can find recipes that make you feel like you're not really giving up things for. So one of the things I did was look at, what did we like to eat? And then I tried to find recipes that were low sugar, versions of those things. Not everything worked or tasted good. But I do feel like we're at this age where thankfully products are coming out that are low carb or low sugar, that make it much easier today than I think it would have been even a decade ago to do this diet. There were 2 things that I could never find replacements for. The one is pizza. I think I made, 10 different types of pizza. One was even with just bacon crust, which I thought was amazing, but nothing quite kind of hit the mark of Domino's pizza. So that one was a struggle, and spaghetti was a staple. And to be honest, I didn't even try to replicate spaghetti noodles because I'd read all these things. I don't know, all these different types of noodles, but maybe they have a bad smell or something. I just didn't even go there. We did do things like skillet lasagna without any noodles, trying to replicate things. But those 2 things for sure. We used to have conversations, what's your first thing you're going to have, when you're off the diet? And those 2 things were definitely on the top. I went to the Charlie Foundation, kind of at the beginning, and they have a lot of good recipes. The one that I still make even today is, I think Chase is addicted to the pancakes, to the almond flour, cream cheese, and egg pancakes. I have it memorized. I make a double batch every 2 weeks, and I freeze the pancakes, and that's a lifesaver. So then just every morning I take some pancakes out of the fridge, I put it in butter, put cinnamon on everything to make it taste good. And then the Lancanto maple syrup, that's still his breakfast with bacon. And he loves it. So it's been a year plus now where he's had that every day. At the beginning, oh my gosh, at the beginning I was doing he had to have whipped cream as his fat. And so I was actually by hand making the whipping cream out of the whipped cream. Oh my gosh. And I put whipped cream and like 1 or 2 strawberries on the pancakes. And that was a nightmare. And that until I found this recipe to make almond milk, chocolate almond milk. So I would also do, it was like 4 tablespoons of water, and I would warm it up. And then I would mix that with 2 tablespoons of the Hershey's cocoa. And if you warm that up, you can basically get it into a syrup. But it's, I think, no carbs at all. And then you would mix that with 16 ounces of almond milk. And I would make that as like a chocolate milk mixer to his whipping cream. So he loved that drink. And so I no longer had to buy hand whipping cream, my God, in the morning. But I found that recipe, I think, on Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot. And one of the things the dietitian told me before I left that first meeting was, because I was talking to her about the difference between keto and modified Atkins, because like I said, I started out just really wondering about keto. And she said, you know what, most people, when they have keto recipes, they're really like modified Atkins can slide right into that because they're really just about low carbs. And so if she hadn't have said that, I think I would have struggled more, because then on Pinterest, I just searched keto recipes, because even some keto recipes were over 5 carbs. So you have to I use the keyword keto because when you search modified Atkins food, not a lot comes up. And in her binder of goodies, she only had about 8 recipes. And so between the Charlie Foundation, Pinterest keto recipes, and her binder, I was able to piece together like a group of meals. But that whipping cream, almond milk combination was really good. And the pancakes we're still doing from the Charlie Foundation. Yeah, those were, so I would just say experiment. And once you find something you like make a ton of it and freeze so that you don't have to be worried about where's the next meal coming from. And I also, every week I would include Chase in what are we doing for the week for the recipes. And it would every Sunday morning, and we still do this actually, we figure out what we're making for the week. And he had a hand in it. And I know that, some kids might not be old enough to do that, but for him, since he was 9, he could help me. Yeah, those were the things that I found that were good. There's so many more recipes available. It was easier for me to at least find versions of our favorite foods in keto. Yeah, even if it took a little bit more to measure. But I would say also for lunches, we just kept it simple. So breakfast was always pre-made because I had the pancakes. And then lunches were always something with a wrap. Those Mission Carb, low-carb tortillas were 4 carbs. And so I had 1 carb to spare always. Those were a lifesaver. So I basically just filled a wrap with meat, and that was lunch. So it was really just dinner that I always really had to make a plan for, to do something new. It is possible, and don't be overwhelmed by all of the information. I love to learn. That's one of the things that drives me. And so I was always just looking for new information, and I would reach out to friends. My friends had good tips for me too whenever I was struggling. Reach out to Facebook groups. Talk to people. Just don't give up. It's everybody has been in your position, but I wouldn't want to discourage you from not trying it, because it was such a lifesaver for us, and it is going to be hard, but have a support system so that you don't feel like you're alone. I appreciate you putting this video together. I wish I would have had a series about other people and how they struggled, but I really just want to underscore that it has so many good benefits, and to just, it doesn't hurt to try, and not to be discouraged. Give yourself some grace